What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're taking a look at some more series reviews, and today we're taking a look at Rick and Morty Season 7. I have just come out of watching this. I watched the first couple of episodes with my girlfriend, then I watched the final 5 on my own, as she watched them on her own as well, and we're going into it pretty happy with the overall result of Season 7. Everyone had a lot of different thoughts and opinions and worries about it because we are continuing without Justin Roiland, and this season has proved that we don't need him to have a very good Rick and Morty season. Continuing with that statement, though, this has been one of the best Rick and Morty seasons in a while. Rick and Morty is finding its footing again, and I'm very excited for the future of Rick and Morty, but I'm also going to trust the trailers, and I'm going to trust the promotional posters and the episode titles less and less, and if at all, because the episode titles trailers have led us in such wrong directions with this season, and it given us false hype, false hope, so I'm not going to take anything they have to offer at face value anymore. So, the first episode was How Poopy Got His Poop Back, which is a very nice introduction to the season. It's Mr. Poopy Butthole living with the Smiths, and basically his friends take him out on an adventure to stop, worrying and getting on and stressing about his wife. So we have Hugh Jackman here, we have Bird Person, Squanchy, and it's a solo Rick adventure, and it ends up being quite good, quite fun, just a generic Rick adventure, some good old times with his pals. We get to learn a little bit more about some of his past, we get to learn more about his friends, and we get to see some very good fan-favorite characters return. Episode 2, The Jerick Trap, one of my personal favorite episodes. It had the Mafia in it, and it had Rick and Jerry having a falling out, and Rick giving his smarts to Jerry, and them killing themselves, both of them, and then the computer tried to fix them both and ended up splicing them, technically creating 2 new characters, but they technically were the same person, but it was a fusion of Rick and Jerry. And we had the family have to go and save them and separate them and sort of find the Mafia and stop them and basically just find their dad and granddad. Air Force One. This was basically the return of Rick's girlfriend, the Hive Mind lady, and her worrying about Rick, because Rick is going to therapy and he hasn't been doing the best lately, and he's been trying to track down Rick Prime to save himself and basically just get on with his life and get on with everything else, which is a little bit concerning. I will put that out there, but it wasn't a very special episode. Episode 1 started very strong. I'm going to give that one a 9 out of 10. I just would have preferred a little bit more Morty in there, and it was a little weird hearing Rick and Morty's voice slightly change. It did put me off a little bit, but you do get used to it as the season goes on. But as the first episode, I think they managed it pretty well. The second episode, I'm also going to give a 9 out of 10. I just thought it was really cool, classic Rick and Morty's adventures, and I liked the chaos that the Rick and Jerry fusion brought to the episode and brought to the season. Third episode, again, it was another Rick solo episode, so it does feel a lot more like Rick's story instead of Rick and Morty. It feels a lot more Rick than Morty. We do still have Morty elements to the episode, but not as much, and it is just about Rick going to therapy and overall hearing and bettering his character, taking a very similar direction to Doctor Who, where they're taking the character out of all the chaos, out of it all, to take a break, take time off, and heal and reflect and just accept what's happening around him, accept his new life. So with this one, I feel like it was quite a good episode for the Rick in progression, but story-wise, it's a pretty crap one. I didn't really like the president turning into a hive mind, so I will give it a 4 out of 10. This is where the season really starts to dip. Episode 4. That's a Morty, and this is where Rick has some world-famous spaghetti, and he's getting it from a planet where if you commit suicide, you turn into spaghetti. And he's basically feeding the family. Morty accidentally finds out and ruins it for everyone, and then tries to fix it, and ends up making the galaxy fall in love with this spaghetti, and then asking Rick for help, and he fixes it and puts everyone off eating spaghetti people. Again, I feel like this is a very strange episode, but it felt more like a classic Rick and Morty adventure. It felt quite interesting, quite refreshing to see Rick and Morty together again, going on a joint adventure to do some goofy shit. Again, you need the highest level IQ to enjoy Rick and Morty, so understanding this episode requires the most highest IQ, at least 300 IQ to understand this one. Episode 5 was my absolute fucking favourite episode. It was so lore-heavy, and you know what? Giving episode 4 just an average 6 out of 10. It wasn't anything special. It just felt like a good old-fashioned Rick and Morty adventure. Episode 5 was so fucking good. We had Rick Prime returning, which was incredible, unexpected return, but they go and hunt Rick Prime down with the help of evil Morty, which I didn't expect him to return, but he came back. We got a little bit of what life is like outside of the Rickverse, because we found out in a couple of earlier seasons that there's a Rickverse, and Rick has made this whole dimensional portal thing around all the Ricks in the universe, in the dimensions, finding all the smartest people and sort of sticking to that area. Once you go outside that, once you break away from that and go from the green portal to the yellow portal, you are unleashed to more worlds of unexpected unknowns. And that's where Evil Morty wanted to go. He managed to get there, and we got to see what it was like out there, and it looks fucking crazy. Other people other than Rick are creating portals and traveling the dimensions and dying in this hellscape of dimensions. It's like the space between dimensions, and it is awful. There is so much death and destruction going on there, worlds colliding, infinite death, and it just looks so insane and crazy, and working out how Rick solved that problem is incredible. But we also have him teaming up with Evil Morty. They find Rick Prime, and they kill him. They actually kill Rick Prime, and at the end of this episode, we see Rick not being really fulfilled. He got his revenge, he got what he wanted, and now he just feels empty. He doesn't have anything. He doesn't have a goal to work towards. He doesn't have the nemesis. He doesn't have his wife back. He's just empty. And we see that towards the end of the episode. And it, by far, 10 out of 10 episode. The perfect episode. I love the lore episodes. And this has just pushed Rick and Morty so much further. But it's also very scary because it's where do they go from here? They've killed Rick Prime, Evil Morty has gone, and Rick has just got nothing. He hasn't got his wife back, he's killed the person he was hunting down, so he has no goals, he has no nothing. He's just an empty, hollow shell of a man. And we sort of continue that theme in Rick Fending Mort, which is kind of the shittiest episode of them all. I am going to be honest. I'm going to also give this one a 4 out of 10 because it is literally just like a TikTok. You have a Rick and Morty's trying to get Rick back into the swing of things, get him back into going on adventures, try and cheer him up again, and he wants to cash out his Morty cards. And he tries this, and Rick doesn't accept them, so he gets a stone to sort of come in, and it plays clips from their adventures that we haven't actually seen. So it is like scrolling on TikTok. We just get a new adventure every couple of seconds, try and entertain us for a little bit, and then it just quickly goes on to the next one, like 15 seconds each, and then it's on to the next one, on to the next one. And it was just quite boring. It was quite exciting to see everything that they've got up to, but I would have liked a whole episode dedicated to each and every one. It just felt like an interdimensional cable reboot, rebranding of that style of episode. But again, it wasn't really what I wanted to see from an episode of Rick and Morty. Episode 7 found Summer trying to impress Rick, do all of his chores, so Rick will give her a Fallout 4 sort of stealth thing, which will help her amplify her strength, her intelligence, her integrity, all stuff like that. And it goes wrong because Morty wants one, but he won't give Morty one, so they fight over it and end up fusing into one character and having, like, Morty come out of Summer's stomach as, like, a little flurgan, I think they're called. I'm not too sure what they named it. It was really weird. And it was a weird episode. I didn't really like this one. It was more of like a Summer Morty adventure, and it was the most we got out of Summer this season, and I didn't really like it. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It was a gross episode. Episode 8 was a Morty adventure, and had Ice-T returning with all the numbercrons, and Morty's math teacher explaining how good maths is, and you can have maths and letters together. Again, no Rick in this one. It was more of a Morty solo adventure. And with this, it sort of shows a pretty terrible episode. Not going to lie, I'm not a big fan of the numbercrons, but it had reoccurring characters. We had the numbercrons and the lettercrons fighting in a war. It was very, I don't know, it riffed off a lot of different movies, and it was a pretty poor episode, but it was better than a couple of the others, so I will give it like a 5 out of 10. Moving on to episode 9, which I forgot what episode 9 is, not gonna lie. I literally just came out of watching it, but I forgot what it is, so that's wonderful. Episode 10 was really good, though. I really enjoyed episode 10. Episode 10 was an amazing finale, an amazing finish, and another 10 out of 10 episode, because it felt like a Rick and Morty episode. Again, them both together on an adventure, and it ended at a really nice close. We have Rick and Morty going on an adventure, trying to get scared, and we have Morty jumping into this fear hole, which looks like it was from the grunge, not gonna lie. And he was going through so many different fears of turning into his dad, and having Rick go away from him, and then Rick had a fear of like not being able to let go and stuff like that. But towards the end of the episode, after Morty going through so many different fears and conquering them all, he realized his biggest fear. He was relying on Rick way too much, and the hole showed him that. He was scared that if he would jump in the hole, Rick wouldn't follow him. And he beat it, and he got out, and he saw that Rick never actually followed him into the hole like he expected and like he thought he would. And he feels undervalued, underappreciated, and replaceable. He doesn't feel like Rick needs him, and we sort of see that throughout this season, with there only being really 2 Rick and Morty episodes where both of them go on an adventure together. The rest of the 10 episodes see either one of them going on their own adventure or the other one going on their own adventure. They're hardly ever together this season, and I feel like that is the new direction that Rick and Morty is going in, with them going their separate ways, growing to be apart and healing and not relying on each other as much. And I like how we have seen Rick grow, because right at the end of the episode, he puts Morty's picture on the board saying he conquered the hole. That was amazing symbolism to show that Morty isn't replaceable. Morty is his grandson, the one that he loves, the one that he cares about, and that he doesn't want to get hurt, and that he cares a lot about, but he won't admit it. And that was a nice way of showing it. We see Rick grow a lot through this season, with him going to therapy, apologizing, and not being too angry or rough with Morty, being more respectable of his boundaries, and just open to talking to him more, which I quite enjoyed. But there isn't much else to go off here. I'm quite happy with how the season turned out. I am going to give the season an overall 8 out of 10. I am quite happy with it. I liked all the adventures. It felt like classic Rick and Morty, with the sprinkle of lore which we normally get, which is good lore. We're learning more about these characters, and there is still a continuing narrative, but we are still getting the goofy one-off episodes. It does feel like an average cartoon, like The Amazing World of Gumball or Adventure Time, and I like that. I like how we can still have lore and like a continuity to it, but still have the goofy one-off episodes where they can just mess about and do an idea that they decide to pick. And that's what I love about Rick and Morty. The voice acting is incredible. The new replacements for Justin Roiland do such a good job, and it did feel odd or a little bit off to start with, but you get used to it as the season goes on, and it doesn't sort of pick up as much. And from the trailers, it was really good anyway. And the animation style is perfect as always. It's just such a good show, and I'm so happy that we're starting to get back into the prime Rick and Morty episodes again. It's starting to get good, and it's getting entertaining again, and it's not being as dry as it was in Season 6. I'm very excited for Season 8, very excited to see what happens, and other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this YouTube video. I'll see you all in the next one. I hope you all have a nice day. And if you do like my content, please do check out the link in the description, or click on another video to see what else I have to offer. Other than that, bye-bye.